The night was sharp with cold, the kind that crawls under coats and settles into the bones, and Christmas lights flickered like tired stars above an almost empty street. Snow gathered in thin, uncertain lines along the curb, and a broken bus stop sign creaked as the wind pushed against it. It was there, beneath the hum of a dying street lamp, that a small truth fell heavier than the snow itself, the kind of truth that does not announce itself loudly but leaves a mark that never quite fades. A boy, barely tall enough to reach the bench, stood with his hands tucked into sleeves too long for him, and the world around him felt forgotten, as if even Christmas had passed them by. If this opening already stirs something inside you, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that can still happen when people least expect them, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so these stories can keep reaching hearts like yours. Michael Harrison had never planned to be at that bus stop. In fact, he rarely planned anything anymore beyond what his assistant placed neatly on his calendar. He was a billionaire by 46, a name printed in business magazines and whispered in conference rooms, yet on that Christmas night he sat alone on the wooden bench, staring at the pavement as if it might answer questions he had stopped asking out loud. His tailored coat could not hide the weight pressing against his chest. He had left behind a penthouse glowing with decorations he had not chosen and a dining table set for guests who never came. The city of Cleveland, Ohio stretched around him, busy with families and warmth somewhere else, while he waited for a bus he did not really need, simply because going home felt heavier than staying out in the cold. Across the bench, a young boy named Joshua stood close to his mother, Sarah, a woman whose eyes carried both exhaustion and a fierce, quiet love. Joshua was 7, with sandy hair flattened under a knit cap and sneakers that had seen better days. Sarah held a worn purse close to her side, her coat thin, her shoulders tight against the wind. They were not supposed to be there either. Their car had died weeks earlier, and the bus was their last connection back to a small apartment on the edge of town, one that smelled faintly of old paint and boiled potatoes but was still called home. Michael noticed them without meaning to. He noticed the way the boy kept glancing at the dark sky, as if waiting for something to appear, and the way the mother tried to smile while rubbing her hands together for warmth. He noticed because loneliness sharpens the senses. It makes a person aware of other people's absence and presence in equal measure. Joshua's face carried a seriousness that did not belong to childhood, and when his lips moved, it was not with the careless joy Michael remembered from his own Christmases long ago. Joshua had said that his mom told him Santa must have forgotten them again, and the words did not come out angry or bitter. They came out soft, almost apologetic, as if the boy were trying to protect an invisible man from blame. The sentence drifted into the cold air and settled somewhere inside Michael, echoing against memories he had buried beneath success and silence. He remembered a Christmas decades earlier, after his father died and his mother worked double shifts, when the tree had stood bare and the morning passed quietly, without laughter. He remembered learning then that being forgotten hurt more than being told no. Michael shifted on the bench, his breath fogging the air. He told himself to stay still, to remain the observer he had become. But something about that small voice would not let him. Joshua's words were not really about gifts. They were about being seen. Sarah squeezed her son's shoulder and nodded, her jaw tight, her pride bruised but unbroken. She was doing what millions of parents do every day, carrying disappointment so her child would not have to. The bus was late. Minutes stretched, and the cold deepened. Michael found himself standing, his expensive shoes sinking slightly into slush. He thought of the fortune he had built, the companies he owned, the headlines that praised his ambition, and how none of it mattered at that bus stop. Wealth felt useless there, an abstract thing that could not warm fingers or soften a child's confusion. For the first time in years, he felt something close to urgency that had nothing to do with profit. Sarah noticed Michael then, the way one notices anyone who stands too close on a quiet night. She straightened, instinctively protective, her eyes scanning his face. Michael looked tired, older than his years, his hair dusted with gray at the temples. He looked like a man who had been running from something and finally stopped. Joshua watched him openly, curiosity flickering across his face like a match in the dark. Michael did not speak, because words had failed him too often. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket where his phone rested beside a leather wallet heavy with cards he rarely used himself. His hand trembled slightly, not from the cold. He thought about how many times he had written checks without feeling anything at all. This felt different. This felt like standing on the edge of something that might change him if he let it. The bus headlights finally appeared at the end of the street, a dull glow cutting through the falling snow. Before it arrived, Michael took a step closer to the bench. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if afraid the moment might break if he rushed it. He bent down until he was level with Joshua, not invading his space, just close enough to be real. He took out a small envelope he had not known he would give away, one he kept for emergencies, and placed it gently on the bench between them. Sarah's breath caught. She did not reach for it right away. She looked at Michael, searching his face for explanation, for danger, for judgment. She found none. What she saw instead was a man asking for permission without words, a man offering something without expecting gratitude. Michael nodded once, a simple gesture, and stepped back. The bus pulled up with a sigh of brakes and a burst of warm air. Passengers climbed on, heads down, unaware that something quiet and holy had just taken place. Sarah finally picked up the envelope, her hands shaking as she opened it enough to see what was inside. Her eyes filled, not with the sharp tears of humiliation she had feared so many times, but with the soft, overwhelming kind that comes from relief. Joshua watched her face change, watched her shoulders loosen, and something in him relaxed too, even if he did not fully understand why. Michael turned away before the bus doors closed. He did not wait for thanks. He did not want recognition. He walked back into the snow, feeling lighter with every step, as if he had finally set down a weight he had been carrying since childhood. Behind him, the bus drove off, carrying a mother and her son toward a night that would end differently than it began. Christmas morning came quietly for Michael. He woke in his penthouse to sunlight reflecting off fresh snow, the city transformed into something almost gentle. For the first time in years, he did not feel the usual emptiness. He made coffee himself and stood by the window, thinking about Joshua's face and Sarah's tired smile. He wondered where they were, what they were doing, whether the warmth he felt had reached them too. Across town, in a small apartment, Joshua tore open a package with wide eyes, laughter filling a space that had known too much silence. Sarah watched him, her heart full to bursting, her faith restored in a way she had not dared to hope for. She did not know Michael's name. She only knew that a stranger had seen them and chosen kindness. Weeks later, Michael found himself returning to that bus stop, not out of loneliness but out of intention. He started a foundation quietly, focused on families who slipped through the cracks during the holidays. He visited shelters without cameras or press. He learned names. He listened. And every time he felt the old emptiness creeping back, he remembered a boy in an oversized coat and the simple truth that changed everything. Just before we reach the end of this story, take a moment to comment below with the word hope if you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can rewrite someone's future. Years passed, and lives unfolded. Joshua grew taller, stronger, his childhood shaped not by what he lacked but by the knowledge that strangers could care. Sarah rebuilt her life piece by piece, her resilience steady and quiet. Michael's name continued to appear in headlines, but the man behind it was different now. He no longer measured his worth by numbers alone. He measured it by moments like that Christmas night, when he chose to stop and see.